しきれましたわ。
Welcome, everyone, to episode 166 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, recorded September 9th, 2021. Yes, the answer was Pikachu, Raylos Pendragon. We'll let you know what our TCC intern popped up for our trivia quiz. It was, which episode did Minos Spellgood premiere as a guest host? So we'll let you know after the show. Hang on for a lot more if you want to come live, get those fun questions. C-Sam, thank you for the gift subs. Thank you, all of you who joined in the subathon before the show. You can always catch us 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time here on the Crystal Chronicles on Twitch. Soraya the Ranger, thank you for 5 gift subs. Thank you very much. Gift sub hype. Everybody who got a gift sub, make sure you thank that wonderful person who did that, and we'll keep spreading the love. So, I'm Mark. I'm glad to be here. Happy Labor Day. Happy remembrance of 9/11 in a couple days. 20th anniversary.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Remember exactly what happened on that day. Very specific. And everything else. But happy birthday week / half month. We won't narrow it down to the day or the month or the week. But happy birth around this time day to our own Minos Spellgood, and a special shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Spellgood for conceiving and carrying to term the Minos Spellgood. And then feeding him and nurturing him so that he could grow up to be the man he is today. So everybody give us a big happy birthday sub and a happy birthday shout out to Minos Spellgood. Mino, how does it feel to be another year older than you were last year?
Pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Thanks. But like I said last week, entering the birthday was a lot of midlife crisis, but now I'm feeling a little better about it now that the celebrations are underway and I'm over that hump.
Yeah.
Been a pretty good week. It's the opposite, right? Like now I'm realizing, oh, there's a lot of good happening in my life now. I'm appreciating that. And besides the terrible betrayal by Raw Life, everything's been going really good this week.
Good. Shadowheart is saying going to be 30 in a few weeks. Happy birthday to you in a few weeks. 30s aren't so bad. 40s are terrible. I would not suggest anybody go into that. Dystopia Bard says, how did he trick me? I actually know when Mino's birthday is. What do you mean? Hey, we're not here to talk about birthdays. We're here to talk about Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, that game that you might play. And if you don't play it, you're probably not listening to us. But if you don't and you are, then download it. Give it a whirl. But not the Japanese version, because this is a global podcast, because we don't speak Japanese. Well, I don't. Mino does. Or reads it. Do you speak Japanese or just read it?
Let's go with read. I'm not practiced anymore.
Yes. There you go. How many languages do you understand? I was thinking about that the other day.
Depends on what you mean by understand. Like, at what level are we talking here?
Like, at a basic level, like how many languages would you feel comfortable traveling to their native country where they are spoken, and you feel like you could probably get around without much trouble?
I can probably do middle school level Chinese and Japanese, and maybe elementary school level Spanish. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that to work at In-N-Out in Los Angeles, I would assume. Diggs Asura, thank you for the Tier 1 subscription. So multilingual Minos Spellgood is with us, as always. So, very cool. I barely speak English. Probably a few of you like that yourself.
What's your community most of? Because Southern California, LA, like Spanish is like forced on you, right? Like
right. I would assume. I would assume.
It's not like I went out of my way to study it. That's just like
Yeah, we because of my profession, I have a lot of colleagues who are from other countries or maybe second generation from other countries. And so, I mean, it would behoove me to learn a few other languages. But in terms of my community, especially where I've lived most of my life, vast majority English speakers. Yes, you have, Hispanic communities. You have maybe some, Vietnamese, Korean communities. Obviously, Chicago is a melting pot, more of all kinds of different cultures. But for the most part, yeah, it's not like in LA where, there's a good population that, depending on where you are, obviously, where I have lived, it's generally very like 90+% English native speakers. So, yeah. But I took 8 years of French, and that didn't help me at all. With anything. I could talk to Dreamy if I wanted to, but that doesn't seem like...
there you go, right? That's
doesn't seem like worth my time.
Language. That's the second language right there.
He speaks English, so I can just do that. Well, seriously, let's talk about DissidiaFFOO. There was finally the bug for Cores EX, which I never really understood what the bug was, but it's fixed. So don't feel bad, because finally Cores EX boost to Lion's Roar effect from Limit Break 3 passive for Cores EX weapon not working as intended. Now it does. Thank you, Squex, for fixing that thing that was broken. I really appreciate it. Now Core does the thing he's supposed to do, whatever that thing is. And Yuffie's got a costume, and you can see it right there. I think it's great. I love this costume. Of course, I love Advent Children. And unfortunately, that's not a joke. I really, really love Advent Children. And there it is in all of its beauty. Although I don't like any of her weapons besides the base weapon.
I'm using the EX for her.
Yeah, her EX is fine, but it just kind of it just overpowers. I think the base whatever this weapon is, maybe this is just the base weapon, right? It just kind of looks it looks like her Advent Children weapon too. So let us know what Yuffie weapon you prefer. Do you like the little dove thing? Because that's dumb. Origami. I did always like the origami in Legend of the Five Rings, the samurai RPG. There's a class that can make origami swords instantly and kill people with them. I always thought that was kind of cool. And whatever this thing is, this fan looking thing. But yeah, the EX and the LD are just giant. They're just so big. So I think I like this one the best. Yeah, there you go. Excalibur likes the paper crane. Paper crane. Yes, that's the paper crane. Excalibur likes the LD. Daroth likes the EX. There you go. You don't like the bird? No, I like it. It's nice. It's a bird. Whatever. But that's it. So I'm all spent on Yuna's wedding dress and Yuffie's Advent Children costume. And my Mog Pass. That's over $100 this year on more than $100 this year. $100 this month on DissidiaFFOO. And that's it. So let's get right into the events. After 9 minutes, let's get right into the events. The first event, going back, not talking about Yuffie, was the Shinryu raid event, and it had a funny name. But it brought us Agrias' rework, her level 80, and her LD. So let's take a minute to break down our favorite tactics knight, Agrias. Agrias brings party support, of course, battery healing utility to the party through different debuffs which shut down the enemies. First is her skill 2, which grants AoE paralyze randomly, or there is a random chance, a percent-based chance that it will debuff the enemies, or with the AA, it is a guaranteed paralyze. Second, her EX debuff grants the silence debuff, which allows or negates the enemies from using Magic Brave and HP attacks. Now her LD unlocks a special Brave attack called Fated Molly, which inflicts the debuff Fated Molly, which grants Confusion and Brave and HP damage up for 1 turn. Agrias is a solid support. She's got healing, she's got battery, and the ability to lock down her opponents. She's less effective versus non-magic bosses that don't do magic damage or magic attacks, because she won't be able to use her EX buff as much. And her Paralyze is limited to 2 uses guaranteed, and it's reliant on RNG for every other use. Fated Molly does take a turn to set up, kind of like Beatrix. You have to unlock that Brave attack and then use it, so it might be a little harder for other people to use than some on-demand shutdown abilities. Agrias plays well with other damage dealers and other hybrid damage dealers that might add a little bit more support to the party. Her healing may not be enough for your party depending on the fight, so you might need to pair her with some other healers. You're generally bringing her to shut down the opponents, so don't be afraid to pair her with some other support to boost damage and boost your main damage dealer as well. I would suggest kind of moving through what we think. If you like tactics, obviously you want to pull to remind the devs that it is a game that exists and maybe you would like more characters from it. If you like characters who can provide solid support or shut down the enemies, though, through debuff, she is a great choice and a great pickup. I have her and I've been using her. I've always enjoyed her kit. I think she's a really solid character to use. I like the stun lock mechanic of her and several other characters, so she does provide that in certain fights. She's not terribly hard to use, but at the same time, because you have to kind of set up her debuffs, she can be a little trickier to use than some on-demand characters. So that's my take on Agrias, kind of walking through it. Mino, what's your take on Agrias?
Let's see. I mean, clearly the devs don't have much faith in Final Fantasy Tactics because they didn't remove Yuna's BT from this banner, and they really needed to leave that on there for people to pull. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure a lot of people pitied Yuna on this banner, correct? I'm sure Chad could speak up on that, but she sort of sort of a reverse Kamlanot, right? With the ability into the brave attack that's really good, but no, but seriously, um so the silent the shutout, the silence, very good. Doubles down with the magic silence, right? Especially magical attacks
Yeah.
because of the EX. And I've noticed that people running her lately like to pair her with Ash for that very reason, because of course
Yeah.
her EX is more reliable than the S2.
Yeah.
The LD with its free uses now gives you 6 guaranteed AoE paralyzes. Pretty slow to set up though. Pretty slow character. A lot of turns to either do that or set up Fated Moly, right?
Yeah.
Because I was kind of disappointed that Fated Moly is a one turn thing, and it's just hard to take advantage of. Just like you said with Beatrix, an offensive version of that. Um, Personally, and I know a lot of people are big Agrias fans, so I know I'm going to get torn to shreds on this, but personally, I think she's okay. I'm not overly impressed, Mark. I want to hear your actual impressions of using her, because she does a little bit of everything pretty well, and especially against magic units that we've been facing, like Shinryu and the masked monks and everything that are
Yeah.
pure magic. The shutout is very strong. The Rude's LC just really shows off her kit because it's 3 targets that spam magic attacks, and she can really keep that out. But it's just, I guess, an above average kit in every aspect. I know a lot of people say moving forward there's going to be a good amount of fights that she can really CC lock in. But also, I know that there was also talk amongst JP players that one of the reasons she received so much popularity was because uh when Brave gains start getting hit really hard, Porum is long gone. And Agrias was the next best option here because she gives the exact same amount of Brave gain up as Porum. A little more
Yeah.
damage here, a little more everything here. But I solid character, but I don't think unless I'm going to get torn apart on this, unless I'm going to eat my words in a few weeks, I just don't see it as a super powerful kit. I don't see. Yeah. Mark, did you use her, Mark? What do you think? from
Yeah, I,
practically.
I used her in Shinryu. I did not use her in. I've only done Rude Lufania once, just because I had just a few minutes to do it today, and so I could see how she could pretty much shut them out really easily, and a lot of current content. I think. I mean, she's always played well. She plays pretty easily now. The big issue is right with her and Yuffie. It's going to be the same issue with Yuffie. Uh, how long there are going to be characters that you can probably use for a long time, and if you are, again, if you're a Jin Lee and you love the debuff characters, you're going to probably, I mean, they're probably great TCC challenge characters, right? Because we're never going to ban Yuffie, and like besides the Yuffie cheese fights, which there aren't too many I don't think coming up. Yuffie and Agrias are going to be characters that aren't going to be banned from anything, because they're not providing ridiculous damage. They're not providing an abundance of support by themselves, although Agrias is providing more support than Yuffie. But yeah, she can lock, Agrias can lock down things for like you said, quite a few turns if you play her well. Now you got to be careful, because it's not just like every turn is an on-demand shutdown, right? It's not like playing Elden Arsh. There's a little bit more strategy in terms of, when you're going to do it. And because she has 3 different debuffs, any boss that is immune to paralyze, obviously any boss that's immune to debuffs completely, but any boss that's immune to silence or paralyze is going to shut out some of that. So I don't know if any bosses are immune to her new debuff moving forward, but probably not, because it's not as
There's some
potent.
debate in the chat. I don't know if I was wrong, but I thought maybe I'm wrong because I'm doing too many characters at once. But I thought Agrias's LD gives her a free skill use. Am I
Now,
wrong on this?
you
It
said
just restores.
you said that, and I didn't go look yet, so let me go look. And again, TonberryTroupe.com has the beautiful infographics, because I had in my notes that I did not have that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't do that. It restores 1 use.
Okay,
Of
guys.
skill 1 and skill 2. It does not give you a free use, so you cannot so it's only 2 uses, guaranteed uses of the paralyze. Yeah,
Apologies
if the LD gave you a free skill use and you got to use the AA, and you got 5 uses of the AA, 5 guaranteed AoE paralyzes on top of the 4, because she does start with the brave attack. So 4 uses of the confusion, and how many ever uses, especially if you pair with Ash, of the silence. Yeah, she could really shut down, but it's a little bit more limited than that. That's for sure.
Right. That's my mistake, guys. I was thinking Yuffie already, because her LD gives a free skill use. So I thought playing Agrias, it was a free skill use you could use on AA. So I'm totally mistaken on that. So it's 3 LD uses plus a starting Brave Plus, so that's 4, and then 2 AAs for 2 guaranteed AoE paralyzes. Correct? Okay. And the confusion on the Brave Plus is a nice touch. Because,
I mean, she's not running out of skills, especially with the skill restoration from her LD.
Right.
I mean, I in the times I've used her already, it's like she almost has no skills used at the end of the fight, besides her LDs, right? So, I mean,
Excalibur wants to say it's also significant that her paralysis chance increased from 15% to 25%.
Yeah. Yep, 25% chance, which is better, especially against multiple bosses. So, but it is, it's a 25% chance on each boss. So
that's less chance than Waka.
That is less chance than Waka. And so it's better to have that guaranteed stun, that guaranteed lockdown. And she does get that, so that's for sure. So same as crying, CSDX says. There you go. But I mean, overall, again, we're at the end of one era, moving into another era with a power hike, and then we're gonna move into another era with another power hike. And so, I mean, a lot these characters will get that C90 power hike. So, Jake says, please bank this sub for the next tickets for Lex Sack, a shitty character campaign. Okay, I'll keep that in. I'll keep that in mind, Jake. Maybe Barrett will be that because I have not released my Yuffie pull video, but let's just say Agrias and Yuffie have not cost me very much, so I do have some tickets to burn the rest of this month.
Yeah, Silocon was asking, are we gonna get more Lufanias later that do off-turn damage that can be stopped by paralyze? I can't really speak to that, but I do know that a good amount of the turn warping is literally warping their turn up. Like, who did that recently? Oh, right, like Yuna's bosses, right?
Yeah.
Where it does wear off the debuffs faster. So that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I can't confirm that, Silocons.
Evil Kong, hoarding is a disease. That's why we don't save. We use our tickets, use our resources, have fun playing the game. Hoarding is a disease. As you can see on my screen, we use our resources.
Holy crap, I'm above you again. What did you spend?
How did you get above me?
I'm at
how is that even
109.
possible?
I'm at 109, and we both bought the same costume.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Well, I spent 95,000 on Yuna.
Gross. Okay,
So
did
I dip below you? You haven't spent any gems since then?
I did 40K on Agrias, 45K on Agrias.
Are you at 1,009,000 or 1,090,000?
90,000.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Cheats,
All right,
hacks, obviously hacks.
I'm at 0 tickets though, so.
Oh, I have a lot more than 0 tickets. Oh yeah. Yeah. Anything else about Agrias?
I guess just
yeah.
Brave Gain is a very powerful tool to keep her in mind for, and the shutouts, but especially against magic bosses, right? Like I feel like she's a little more focused on that. Her EX isn't going to be great for physical fights. And I haven't looked at the spread yet, but a more specialized CC character, right? Yeah, not super universal, but could probably work.
Yeah. I don't know what people in chat are asking about tickets. Clarify those
how
questions.
Many tickets do you have?
How many tickets do I have? I don't know, a few. I have.
Tell me when I get close. 1,000?
827 plus probably around.
This is actual hoarding.
Probably about a 400 in boards. Maybe not quite. No, maybe less than that. I got a couple hundred in boards. Yeah, so over 1,000 definitely. All right, looking at the podcast polls, I think Mino, you were right. Although a lot of people looking back at the original, and again, thank you to Quetzalma from MateriaBot, J.A, our mod. They set up these polls across all servers. So if you do have your own little or big, let me not assume that you have a tiny server. Maybe you have a medium-sized server, appropriate average-sized server, right? If you have a server that has default players on it, you can get MateriaBot on there and get the podcast polls. So looking at that original Yuna banner, 11 or 20 people pitting across 11 servers, the BT on that banner. So a lot of people are just going straight to pity on that, myself included, kind of, because I did keep pulling for the BT. And then on Agrias, 9 people pitying the BT, Yuna's BT, 34 pitying the LD, so a lot of people chasing. This will across 7 servers. 7 using gems, 70 tickets. Only 13 said they skipped. Of course, you can all vote on the podcast polls on our Discord, so join our Discord. A lot of people pitying, Yuna's BT on this banner. Well, this also brought a whole bunch of different content with this kind of raid event. the one fight we will talk about, I guess we can talk just briefly about, we did get another Chaos co-op. So if you look at your Beyond the Ivory Scales, you have your 70, 150, 150 co-op, 180, and 180, and we also got a challenge quest. There are refined spheres as well, if you're interested. But we do have a Chaos co-op, and there was some talk, I know, on the Ranting Hour about, is Chaos co-op bad versus is Chaos co-op good? And I think, I kind of fall where BC was talking about, where check out Black Nero on YouTube and the Ranting Hour every Wednesday night. The idea that it's not about whether it's Chaos or co-op, Chaos or Cosmos or Lufania co-op. Like, the difficulty doesn't matter. The time it takes matters. And this is a very quick Chaos co-op, especially if you have a couple Yunas. You're burning through it really quick. It's not an issue. It's really not an issue at all. So it shouldn't be something that should take you a lot of time. And so in my mind, that's really the sweet spot for co-op. And obviously, the higher difficulty, the more rewards you get. So the fact that this is Chaos is really good, because we get a lot of rewards for doing it. So yeah. So I appreciate it. Mino, what's your thoughts on the co-op?
Same, right? It's just speed. If it's as fast as our old co-ops, and honestly, that's probably what it's supposed to be. Like 5 co-ops in a bell, Anomander is saying. I mean, no, 5 in a book. Although I'm not getting 5 in a book. You guys must have really good partners or running it solo.
Oh yeah, I've been able to do 5 in a book on this one. Yeah.
With randoms?
Yeah,
Running
yeah,
who?
yeah. With I'm running Una.
No, I'm running Agrias, and I usually only get
Oh
4.
yeah, no, Una's doing a lot more damage. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and enabling people to do more damage. So, you can also, if you're playing Una, you can just burst. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you burst with Una, it's much easier. Much easier. All right. Well, we did get we got an extra fight. They call it the extra hard mode. So we have a Chaos, whatever, but the extra hard is kind of a preview of Lufania Plus in a lot of ways. So it's the same fight that we did at the end of one of the chapters. It's the Shinryu fight. It has 2 waves or 2 forms. The first form has about half the health of the second form. So the first form is a little easier to handle. The first form has no Lufania orb. But it can be tricky if you're not careful about it. Its recastability is very nasty and gives him a red aura that doubles his brave and HP damage, but also prevents you from healing for 2 boss turns, and gaining brave for 2 boss turns. This form also gets a free action after 5 consecutive instant party actions. Let me say that again. 5 consecutive instant party actions. So, Terra, LD, button, skill 2, skill 2, skill 2, skill 2, skill 2. Then Shinryu would automatically get an attack. Has a recast ability that automatically triggers at 79% of its health and 49% of its health. Now, the second form actually drops the Lufania Orb, which appears after Shinryu uses his recast ability. The orb freezes when Shinryu has less than 25% of its max brave. While the orb is in play, it disappears after the next recast and repeats the cycle. Shinryu has much higher defense and speed. He also switches auras after every action, and so this could mess up your runs and possibly kill a run or kill a burst phase, summon phase, friend phase, etc. Yellow. So each phase, each aura has its own color. Yellow is immune to knockback and delay, even from being broken. Purple disables healing and brave recovery. Green, Shinryu hits are guaranteed and heals based on HP damage dealt. And blue, Shinryu receives no damage from direct brave hits. So blue is probably the worst one to get into. Although if you're trying to do delay strategies, yellow is kind of a tough one. Green is probably the best one unless you're running some weird evasion strategy, which I don't know that I've seen anybody try to do, because obviously it hits through the evasion without much of a problem. And it also does have this, this form also has the counter ability. So if you take 5 consecutive actions, it will counter with an attack. Definitely MVPs for this fight. Warrior of Light is the MVP for this fight, just like he was before. Really negates anything that's going to happen to you. It's not going to be an issue with Warrior of Light. So bring him. And he pretty much negates all the danger to the party. Tifa and Vaughn with single target crazy damage are doing a lot. Agrias obviously can lock down the boss fairly well. Eunice synergy, or no one synergy, excuse me. Eunice just new, so very nice. And you can bring her all your favorite metas, Core and Setzer and Porum. I've seen all kind. A single target fight, pretty predictable in terms of the moves, pretty manageable. As fights go. So I have seen quite a few different kinds of runs. I'm not even sure that did we come up with a TCC challenge, because
No.
it's just there. You'd have to ban everybody because there's just a lot of different ways to approach this fight. So Mino, anything about this fight?
Uh, Not really on the specifics, so I'm ready to jump straight in the discussion
Yeah,
part of this that you wanted to do, so we can just go right into there. Uh, uh, I'm pretty sure this was when it came out in Japan, it was meant as a beta test for the Lufania Plus, and you can see several concepts that I think are pretty cool, but I know didn't work. The whole concept of no synergy for the fight is an interesting step, but I
yeah,
can and that's something that people have been kind of asking for in our Discord server, right? People are like, "What do you guys think if they made a mode that canceled synergy or let you turn off synergy for challenge runs and stuff?" And while it was kind of cool to see it in the fight, I also understand why synergy is so good at selling weapons and
yeah,
why they shouldn't turn it off. Because as Mark always says, whales should have an easier time. And that's true, right? So it would have been interesting if they moved forward and had zero synergy fights for this stuff, but I can understand why they decided to continue with the synergy. They tested a different way of increasing stats here that BC explained in depth, and I completely forgot. I don't know if you remember,
yeah,
Mark.
yeah. So instead of just increasing, so these bosses, if I understand this correctly, I may be wrong. So chat, correct me. The bosses have lower stats, lower base stats, but higher overall buffs to themselves. So higher invisible buffs, lower base stats, as opposed to higher stats but lower invisible buffs. So that's
Right.
the change.
And I know what that just all that boils down to is that debuffs are ultimately less potent
Yeah,
because instead of piercing the buffs and hitting the
right.
main stats, you're just conflicting with the percentages that are already
Yeah,
on the boss. So that's what they experimented with. Clearly, they didn't like it because ultimately they went with 90% brave gain and brave damage reductions.
yes.
So, so it was interesting to see them play with that, and then they were also playing with turn warping,
Yeah,
which uh this cycle has been so funny because people who are used to absolutely shutting fights out are getting like pissed over every single fight. First it was Yuna's aggravate, then I've seen
yeah.
some rage at this turn jumping, and then I've seen a lot of rage at the sap orb for Rude. So this whole cycle has been
Having
pretty funny.
having to let the bosses take turns. Well, though
Yeah.
next month is all about not letting the bosses take turns. So it goes back and forth.
Yeah. It goes back, but I'm just saying, like, it's really fun, and I'll get more into that when we get to Roots fight. But, the turn warp is a great idea,
Yeah.
but they undertune the orb here,
Yep.
and they undertuned the turn warping. I kind of get it. They wanted to sell Agrias. If you paralyze or silence the boss, it can't really do the turn warp hit.
Yep.
And um, but it's just any like solid HP mitigation here, just like the original fight. Back then, I believe Wall was the only HP mitigation
Yeah.
with his LD. And that's why he was so key to this fight. Now we have a ton of options. And that's why we haven't been doing TCC challenges this month,
Yeah.
because it's just
There's
you have so many options.
it's the end of an era. Yeah.
Right. Just
Yep.
like the Unifight. We did throw one out there,
Yeah,
but
we did do one. Yeah. Yeah.
I was against it because you just have so many options. If not the many cleansers, it's the six framed buffs. Like there's so many ways around these fights that you just can't make a challenge at this point. But yeah, I really like the concepts that they tried here, and I just told you what I liked and
Yeah,
what I didn't.
I
Oh,
do want to
go ahead.
before I
Sure.
forget, if you want to learn a little bit more about this, you can go to Dissidia Info, check out the boss guide. Macnell did a boss guide for this fight. That's very well done, and you can also check out the call to arms if you're looking for help. Always join our Discord. Desobia Bard says the Unifight with the aggravate. I understand frustration because they gave us Aerith last month, and surprised you can't use her on Eunice fight. Yeah, but did they give us Aerith last month? I mean, Aerith didn't get a new LD last month, right? Aerith
Yeah,
just
she's
got
reran.
she got a tuning pass. So I moving forward, we're gonna have to get over that, right? Because even like we're not even gonna talk about Rude today. That's done.
Right.
Like at this point, moving forward, all repeat LDs are pretty much they're not doing much else. Like from this point on, yeah, Rude got LD boards, but after this, pretty much people are going to get high armor, and then you're going to wait till C90. So, yeah, I don't know that that's a solid argument because yeah, Era's a few months old. But I get yeah, no, I get the frustration that there's guaranteed debuffs that go through debuff evasion, but I also know remember that's part of the game
Yeah,
because
I want to say
that
this.
go back in the history of the game when we got buffs and then cleansing and debuffs and then debuff I mean hits and then guaranteed hits and then evasion and then guaranteed hits over yeah, I mean that's how the game goes.
Bard, I'm gonna say this, Bard. I've seen that argument not often, but you're not the only one that said we just got Aerith last month and she's already shut out. Aerith was reran last month without much.
Yes,
Aerith
okay.
LD came out in March. So
Yeah,
that's 6 months ago. She came out 6 months ago. And you're gonna that's like saying you're gonna run a new Lufania and then you want the EX character to be relative, right? Like the one EX character on the banner. Like we all know to ignore those aren't even banned in the TCC challenges because we know no one's gonna use them, right? It's like running Eldnarsh's Lufania and then saying Irvine's shut out. Irvine just released a week ago, Mark, on the banner, and
yeah.
he's not working on my Iroha Lufania run.
He's not at all.
Yeah.
He's not. Not where he's really bad.
Yeah. So I don't. Not only
No,
do I
yeah.
not think that's a good argument, because I really doubt any of you guys are going to use Mog on Reigns Lufania Plus, but it's also just Rude. I wanted to save this for Rude's fight, so when we get there, but right, people are saying why did they give guaranteed debuffs on Yuna's fight but not Rude's? Well, Rude's. If you look at the call to arms and you see the Aerith usage, you'll see it's through the fucking roof. She's one of the
Hmm.
most used characters there because, and I told Clay this, who's the biggest proponent of this, if debuff evasion always worked, and by the way, we had a quote from Ink saying, "Never mind, I was mistaken. It doesn't say debuff immunity. The buff literally said all buffs literally just say reduces the occurrences of debuffs."
Yeah.
So Ink stopped fighting for that because he said, "Wait, my bad. The game wasn't unclear. It never said 100% prevents debuffs."
No, right, right.
But the point is, like, if that always worked, the meta would be so stale because you would just bring Aerith to any fight that had bad debuffs and two recent um
No.
DPS, and you'd blow through it like everyone's doing in Root's fight. Before you argue that's not true, let's say the early Lufania pluses have a really bad debuff, and you just bring Aerith and you stack two BT plus characters, you're probably going to do fine. Like, I think that if a character's gimmick lasts forever, the game would be so fucking boring, and it would kill a lot of diversity. Then moving forward, when they're inventing new characters, they'll be like, well, I guess we can't make them cleansers anymore because Aerith exists. Or if they want to make another debuff immune character, oh, I guess it has to be better than Aerith in every way. I feel like people, I don't know, I really dislike the whole argument about, oh, it shouldn't pierce debuff immunity, quote unquote. But sorry, Mark, back to were we discussing the
Yeah, there was there was some question about Aerith, about what her it's one of her buffs, right? That gives her that evasion.
yeah, Seal Evil.
Is it Seal
Oh,
Evil? Yeah, it doesn't.
yeah.
There was some question about what.
Oh, you want to look that up right now in your
Yeah.
game?
Well, I was gonna. You got to go in. I got to go into a fight, right, to actually see it. So
Do
I'll
you?
do that. Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's a way to see what the actual buffs do without going into the fight. Um. So, but yeah, no. I mean, I get the frustration. I mean, I don't really get it, but I understand there were a lot of people frustrated with the Unifight. It doesn't seem like anything new to me. And
You're right.
that's why it wasn't particularly frustrating for me, because this is how the game works, right? We started with no buffs, and then hey, we started getting regular generic buffs, and then you start getting frame buffs. Now you'll get gold buffs someday, and that's just how it advances. But I think I mean, I even think Clay said, he was more frustrated. He's running out of resources, and he couldn't pull for Yuna, and there was frustration there, right? And that's always going to be a problem, right? When you start running out of the resources to pull on the units, you have to be a little bit more creative and deal with the boss mechanics in ways that you might not like, because it's always easier. Um, it's always easier to bring the synergy, the meta, the characters they want you to bring, and that's what you should. Like, I mean,
Right. That's just a live service game, guys. And honestly, talking to a lot of people who have this problem, like Clay and Ink, this is your first live service game, I think. Like, this is the first game you've played that
yeah,
continually updates for years. Have you guys really played? Because this is a very common thing. And also, this if this was such a problem, you would have quit the game when Orb started bypassing Last Stand, or attack started ignoring HP mitigation. Because that's like saying, hey, I'm reading this Warrior of Light LD buff, and it specifically says reduces HP damage, but it's not reducing the HP damage of this attack. Like, this has been happening since year one of the game.
yeah.
It really feels like this is just extra frustration because people are either running out of resources, or this was just a hard fight.
Well,
And
and I've never. I mean, I try not to argue too much with Ink, because there's only so many analogies that I can handle in one conversation. But you guys were talking about Magic the Gathering again yesterday on the Ranting Hour, and if you are, so I played Magic competitively long time ago, and to play Magic competitively, you were always, it wasn't like you build this new deck and then you like, so you were talking about it takes time. You were saying, it may take a year to build up enough cards to, that's not necessarily true. You can just buy as many cards as you can buy, depending on how much
going
money you
off
have.
of
But it does take time to learn how to play and learn how to use a deck. But those decks are only good for a very short window of time, because
yes, exactly.
I mean, back when I played, every 3 months a new expansion came out or a new base set came out, and
Yeah.
so every year because the tournament scene was always just new cards.
Yes.
There were some older, but the real tournament scene was always the current release, going back
Yes.
about 3 sets. So the last core set and the last like 3 expansions, and it's
Yes.
cycled, and so you're always having to update your decks. You're always having to make new decks. You're always having to counter whatever's the new kind of meta, and so it's always this update. And I mean, that's how games that have a long history of life, that's how they exist. No, that's not how Final Fantasy VI happened, because you played that game and you put it away. Then it was done, right? That was a single player short game, not a short game, but those were single experiences, maybe for 100 hours, maybe for 50 hours, but it wasn't for, I mean, half an hour, 15 minutes a day for 3.5 years we've been playing this game, sometimes longer. You're talking about not 50 hours, not 100 hours, hundreds, if not thousands of hours we've invested in this game. So, to continue to play it, there's always going to be that cycle. And they were talking, we won't talk about it now because we're a GL podcast, but talking about, the C90 era and the Lufania Plus era and what's going to happen next, and something will happen. So I do have Seal Evil reduces party's occurrence of debuffs.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it says in game.
So please bring that back. The game never lies to you and says always prevents debuffs.
And just to we're a little bit off topic, but just to kind of hammer in this point, a lot of people have their own lexicon, and us included, for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, or use the lexicon on Dissidia DB, our friend Rem, or Dissidia Compendium, or Lee Bob's translations, or the Tonberry Troupe's infographics, which aren't always the in-game lexicon. And so if you go off of, well, this is what this says, but you're taking it off of DB or Compendium or something else that may not actually have the in-game language, the in-game language is sometimes not language that we even use in the community at all. And I've gone back and forth sometimes to try to move it, to say, hey, let's use the language that the game uses, whether we like it or not, because it can really get confusing, and this may be one of this situations. So, but Excalibur saying sometimes the in-game language is very, very very, very vague. But we also talked about this where, okay, yes, maybe the in-game language is very, very vague, but if I click on this boss and go to details, look at all the information I have on this boss. Now, this is the Chaos, right? If it was the other one. I mean, I grew up playing games where you didn't have any idea what the hell the boss did, and you probably had to play it 16 times before you even figured it out. I were playing the dumb Mega Man gotcha game. And there's no figure out what the boss does. You just kind of go in and try to jump around it until you figure out what his pattern is, and then do it a couple times until you beat it. And that's gate kept, but whatever. Well, good conversation. We'll talk about some other things too. So I mean, I value everybody, the complaints, everything else, but I think we get frustrated when the complaints aren't always self-aware. And their complaints, and I'm not picking on anybody that we've talked about today or anything on chat. I'm just saying in general. We've heard complaints over the years that are just complaints about hey, why are we doing this? And well, that's happened 2 years ago. That happened 3 years ago. Like, that's been part of the life of the game. Oh, well, I only played 6 months. For 6 months. Well, okay. Well, welcome to the reality. Or like you're saying, just not experienced with this kind of yes. Can you hear that dumb cricket?
Yeah.
HaateXIII, can you hear that stupid cricket? I tried to find the cricket beforehand. There is a cricket here, and he's here. So sorry about that. Hey, well, speaking of crickets, let's move from one event to another. But before we do, another, like, literal crickets, yes. There's an actual cricket in the room with me right now. I don't know where it is. I tried to find it. Every time I move to get it, he shuts his damn mouth. So it's a pretty clever cricket. Happy birthday to Jin Lee, our friend Jin Lee on YouTube, moderator of our Discord, destroyer of young, bright, futured women's careers.
What the?
It's also Jin Lee's birthday this week, so happy birthday to Jin Lee. You knew that.
Destroyer of
Yeah,
what?
he's always destroying poor Resfoina's hope and spirit by defeating her in pole battles. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay. Oh, sure.
So yeah, I don't know what else he's doing.
And thank you for moving the topic along because I agreed with so much you said, but that would only just stretch it out longer. Fuck, man.
Yeah, and a couple community spotlights. Excalibur, who's in chat with us, has been doing fun boss threshold infographics. I have the current one pinned in our GL event tab and help tab. But thanks for Excalibur. It's really easy. Kind of look and see what the thresholds are. That's all they focus on. I think we've mentioned it before, but I just wanted to mention it again. Really, really nice. And I also want to shout out Silocons, who's with us in chat as well. Silocons is doing some kind of doing videos on YouTube, but a little different take on things. And so he did a GL retrospective looking at the last month, which was fun to watch, and then is doing when should you pull as opposed to should you pull, should you not pull, when should you pull. So check out Silocons on YouTube, check out Excalibur wherever he posts those. I don't know if you post those on Reddit, but if you do, give him an upvote on Reddit. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I don't. Cher's not my dad, so what's he gonna do? But thank you. Hey, let's talk about Rude's lost chapter, or more appropriately, Yuffie's lost chapter, and we did get Yuffie's rework and LD. So Yuffie is a debuffer. if you weren't aware with what the hell Yuffie does, she debuffs. That's her whole thing. She does have limited cleanse and dispel and party battery. She inflicts a whopping 11 debuffs. Just to remind you, bosses can only have 8 debuffs on themselves. Yuffie can inflict up to 11 different debuffs. 2 of them are framed. 9 of them are generic, which is pretty crazy. This does help, however, with her new LD debuff, which is called Doom of the Living, whose potencies are based on the number of total debuffs on the enemy up to 8, of course. So that brings significant attack down, defense down, and I believe it also does speed down and sap to the enemy based on Max Brave, I believe. And so very, very cool. Just let me stop for a second. First time chatter, Wilson, we'll call you. When do you know if your units are strong enough to take on Lufania? Well, it depends on how many units you have, how new they are, and if you have all their gear. Generally speaking, if you have a few recent units who are fully equipped with all of their gear max limit broke, you are probably good to go on current Lufania, especially if you have some more powerful units. So, join our Discord, and we can help you out. That we'd love to help you out. We actually have all kinds of people do that, so definitely. But yeah, you got to have all their gear. And Tonberry Troupe has a good beginner's guide too that can help you kind of the road to Lufania, what you need to do. MLB all their gear. Make sure you have their armor. Make sure you do their boards. Arts and spheres are less important these days, but definitely boards are important, and weapons are important as well. So check out TonberryTroupe.com, their beginner's guide, or just join our Discord. And the links are all below in all of our stuff, so you can join that and hang out with us there, and people can help you through each of those and let you know what's going on. So, yeah, Yuffie also has this unique mechanic that we all know and love where she can throw back her debuffs on the enemy. So if she gets a debuff by the enemy, she can throw it back on the enemy, and that allows us to do some really great Yuffie cheese. When her gimmick works, it works really well. Probably better like, Belthier has a gimmick. And unfortunately, when his gimmick works, it really just doesn't matter because boss buffs are never really that good. But when Yuffie's gimmick works, it works really good. And can really cheese fights. We've had several fights that Yuffie can solo cheese in the past, and there's usually 1 or 2 that sneak up for Yuffie. But even without her gimmick of throwing debuffs back, she still provides significant defense down to help your damage dealers and attack down with that speed sap as well to help protect your party. Her generic debuffs will likely be overwritten by other party calls, but worse if they're overwritten by boss framed buffs, although she does do some dispel as well, so she can help mitigate that. And her special EX debuff prevents bosses from buffing, so she can deal with that a little bit well on her own. Obviously, depending on the kind of boss you're fighting, it can be a big issue for Yuffie. Good teammates with Yuffie. She needs to be ran with a solid support and a solid damage dealer because she's not providing either. She does a little bit of party support, but really not the kind of party support that we need. You know, she's not doing healing. She's not doing brave damage up. She's not doing HP damage up. She does do a little bit of attack max brave, but that's really all she gets, and battery. So she really probably needs to be ran with some other support. And of course, she's not doing great damage, so she really needs to be run with a primary damage dealer as well. But if she cheeses the fight, it really doesn't matter who you bring. So if you want to pull Yuffie, it's probably because you love Final Fantasy VII, you love the remake, the intergrade, whatever they called it. You just need a reason to justify your purchase of a PlayStation 5, and so pull for Yuffie, get that costume. But if you're on the fence, you can probably skip. You can probably live without her, although I always think she's fun. I've used her gimmick and enjoyed her gimmick the entire life of the game. I've been able to play her with non-gimmicked fights a little bit, and yeah, I mean, I think because of those potent debuffs, the attack down and defense down specifically, she can really, really be good. But you really have to make sure that you're pairing her with appropriate, using her with Setzer. You can overwrite freeze, for example, because that's a generic debuff. So, you do have to be careful. Other than that, it doesn't really matter if her generic debuffs get overwritten. Although if you have her attack and defense overwritten, you might need some other framed attack and defense down to really. Pikachu says Yuffie is a worse Kefka. You can also burn through her, even though she's pretty straightforward to play. You can burn through her skills pretty fast, so be careful with that. So that's kind of my general overview on Yuffie. Mino, what do you want to talk about when it comes to the Yuffers?
I don't like her. I don't like her. I don't like this is my personal thing with debuffers, and
Right.
I'm just gonna go on a personal fucking note for here. I was pretty on the fence. I actually did a lot of research because I was like, I don't know how to feel about Yuffie. I like her gimmick, which I'll get to, but when I used her, I personally just did not like using her. And then I was really on the fence. But what really tipped me over into really not liking the character is that Eamon really likes the character. And that's how I know the character's bad, because he likes like the worst characters, right? Like the Rosa that he hasn't taken to any fights that he's pitied. And it's just it's okay, let's talk about the stuff I like first. The
Yeah,
the 11 debuffs is a very funny gimmick.
it
All
is
right,
hilarious. Yes.
because
Now one of those, just to be clear, so skill 2 puts 8 debuffs, 8 generic debuffs.
yes.
LD puts, although you start the wave with the LD if you have a fully limit broke, the LD puts 1 frame debuff. The EX puts 1 frame debuff. That's only 2 turns. And then I think her brave attack also then puts a generic speed down
Mhm.
in addition to that. So they are spread out over 4 different buttons. But yeah, that skill 2 just pops on 8 right off the bat, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So luckily, through developer foresight, the priority of her buffs are really good, right?
Yeah,
So if
correct.
you only have one
Yes.
slot, you're gonna get the speed down, which is pretty cool. 2 slots gets you defense down. 3 slots gets you attack down. So like her best buffs will always stick by design, which is very nice.
Yeah.
But like it's a ton of buffs with very low potencies. Who the hell was I talking to today who was saying, "Hey, if you run Kada," oh, right. I was talking to somebody today, and he's like, "Hey, if you run Yuffie and Kadaj, you can let Kadaj gold frame a very strong attack down." And I was like, "Isn't Yuffie's attack down only 40%?" And he's like,
Yeah.
"Wait, is it really?" And then he checked. He's like, "Fuck." Because I'm like, yeah, because if you throw on Vincent's Sphere, that's already 30% down. But anyways, the
Yeah.
point is, um, I think it's cool that her debuffs will depend on how many slots are left on the boss. That's kind of a cool concept. I really like that BC said that it's fodder for her LD debuff, right?
Yeah. Right.
That increases in potency. So it really is like throw 8 fucking debuffs on there and see how many stick. I like that there's 8 because we're invariably going to run into bosses that are immune to a few here and
Some
there.
of them. Yeah, that's a great point. Right.
Right. So it's like it's designed that no matter what, she can fill the bar. I think that's cool. I think this is cool game design. This is something, but this is also something I would never want to play around ever.
Yeah,
Not me personally.
Eamon is saying defense down is the last, attack is the second last. There is no speed down. There is a speed down debuff. It comes from her brave plus plus plus.
Ah, okay. I'm
It
looking at
doesn't come. Yeah, so the what's skill 2? I don't want this. Yeah, I don't need this. That is party attack. Sorry, physical attack down 20%, magic attack down 20%, turn rate down 20%, poison 40%, eye brave down 40%, max brave down 40%, attack down 40%, defense down 40% in that order, I believe.
yeah.
And then the
I,
speed down is 10%, and again that comes from the other brave
yeah.
pit.
I like the concept of the LD debuff increasing in potency.
Yeah.
I just like the entire mechanic, but I do not like the play style. And again, guys, it's always a personal point. Like, I don't want to play around these debuffs. I can only imagine, in theory, any boss that buffs itself or gives itself any number of framed buffs
Yeah,
is a huge.
think of those bosses that fully frame buff themselves. I mean,
Yeah,
oh,
either the ones that frame buff themselves to
cleanse.
prevent a lot of this. The cleanse isn't such a big deal
No,
because
no.
the S2 fills it up in one
Yeah.
go. I do like that. But the thing is that if she's your sole dispeller, it's gonna take her a while to get back to full.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's not great. Although her her the way that she has to deal with this, unless the boss has guaranteed buffs, let's just throw that out there. Um, the no cheating debuff that she gets from her skill 2, which is
Here's
only
the
2
thing. Yeah.
turns, that
Yes, yes.
prevents brave gain and it prevents bosses from adding buffs.
Right.
So that's not guaranteed that we're not going to come up with bosses that override that. But as long, like, if there's a threshold, like those one bosses, is it the Beatrix bosses? Maybe we fought a couple in the Equinox events. The bosses that have threshold buffs, where they all buff, at a certain threshold. If
Yeah.
her
Yeah.
if her EX buff is on at that point, then you're pretty good.
Eamon is saying the LD extends that debuff, so you could have a lot of uptime on that.
Yeah, no,
I
I
like that.
mean it does generally stand throughout the fight. Yeah, I mean it generally didn't fall off in my experience. So yeah,
And but I'm saying like they don't even need that. Like cleanses are pretty standard. I'm not saying they're always going to be there, but
no,
they're standard enough that you pretty much expect to see them every cycle. At least one of the fights are going to do the auto cleanses. And again, I'm not saying this super shuts down Yuffie.
no, no,
Just
no.
that, just that. Mm.
No,
I
Scott Ong is reminding us that Yuffie and I did not mention. I mean, Yuffie does a whole bunch of weird stuff. Yuffie does have gravity on her
yeah, right.
skill 1. Yep,
Yeah. This is we're
she
just
does
talking about
battery. Yep.
LD gimmick, but
Yeah, yeah,
the other stuff is really nice to have, but I think as Mark and a lot of other people said it, very nice when you need it. So
yeah,
as we said, the EX debuff is very, very cool. Preventing Brave Gain is very rare and it has always been useful. God knows I've ran Kadaj a lot in the past few months just to kill big Brave Gains, right?
yeah,
So I understand that preventing Brave Gain and additionally preventing buffs is very cool. Although I do not trust the preventing buffs. This is a Yuna thing waiting to happen all over
yep,
again. We're gonna get
yeah,
bosses that are gonna buff through that. I
yep.
guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's
But
gonna hold. That's gonna be a
but
problem.
the preventing Brave Gain is very, very good. That's very good. The 100% gravity on S1 is very nice. people are pointing out, but I personally think if you're bringing Yuffie to shave,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
not doing it right.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of other people with 100% gravity, folks. Like, Bart's is gonna come back really soon with his BT plus and have that on demand AoE. So while it is a nice thing to have, I don't really think you should be bringing Yuffie for that. I know, and speaking of which, there's a lot of chatter in our Discord today, which I found pretty funny, saying that her kit kind of fights herself sometimes. Like the EX says no brave gain, but the S1 steals the brave for herself. So
Mm.
I guess if you have the EX on and they're not gaining any brave, the S1 isn't nearly as useful. And the
Mm.
S1 also steals buffs, but the EX prevents buffs. So I guess
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
counter.
Yeah. There's some contradicting mechanics on her kit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think that's a huge problem. I think there is a skill ceiling for Yuffie and Agrias, really, if we
yeah,
talk
for
about
sure,
both of them.
for sure.
Again, the question is, I guess my two-part question is, how much are you going to use these characters moving forward? On the other hand, how much are you using any character moving forward? So, I mean, they are both utility characters. They are both characters that might, find their way back into a team comp moving forward more so than just like a straight damage dealer would. I mean, again, the straight damage dealers fall off faster than these kind of niche characters, these utility characters that might pop up. There might be this time where, oh, this, Agrias can really shut this boss down, or Yuffie can. I mean, again, if you play it right, and you need to be careful because people are saying, oh, Yuffie's got 100% defense down, or like, you got to be careful to make that happen because her Doom of the Living is only 40% with the 8 debuffs. So, you need to have the generic defense down, the generic attack down, or other defense attack down to really make that play, which is fine. You can do that. There's lots of different options to make that happen. And we know that, attack down is a valid strategy and defense down is a valid strategy. And so she can add to that in your party very, very well. And of course, she does have that gimmick when it works exceptionally well. So again, I mean, these are characters, if you play the game like me and you collect characters, these are characters that are going to be on your bench, and maybe you'll pull them out. The problem is, I think generally for me, will you remember that they're here? Will you remember that, oh, yeah, Agrias would be really good here 3 months from now? Or, oh, yeah, maybe Yuffie would work really here 3 months from now, unless, the internet's telling you that it does. And if that case, that's fine. Then be, oh, yeah, Yuffie cheese on this fight. And I don't know. I've not looked. I've not looked forward to see if there's any fights like that, because I know moving forward into next month. Next month's a rough month when it comes to Lufania. Maybe the next couple months are rough. So I really don't know over the next month, how much you're going to be able to use Yuffie and Agrias. Although moving out of the first few months of Lufania Plus, you can pretty much use whoever the hell you want. So if you really like these characters, you're going to invest in them. And again, you're going to find, because there's always that person in chat. There's always that person who's like, well, I use, so yeah, because that's how the game works, right? You can use your favorite character, and you can hit your head on the wall and try to, run the fight 3 hours and not be able to beat it. Or, get to the point where their powers are so overpowered that, yeah, you can bring 2 BT plus characters, like you said, and run these characters through. So yeah, there you go.
To address some of the chat, Shadow Wilson saying, so is Una the better choice if you're new? BT characters are
Oh yeah.
always the better choice. Always, 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 if you're building your roster. And there was a lot of discussion of Yuffie while we were talking. Pikachu Game says, I like how nobody knows how Yuffie works. And Eamon says, yeah, because there's a lot going on. That's what I thought it was a cool gimmick, but it's
How
they
does
could do it more.
Pikachu doesn't even fully limit break anybody with ingots? How does he know if anybody works or not?
I mean, Pierre, he had questions about how Yuffie worked too. He's just saying a lot of people.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The
It's
question
just,
is how important is most of it?
yeah, they could have given her a little more.
Yeah.
They could have given her either a little more damage or a little more potencies on the debuffs.
A little
I guess
more
because
support.
she's just so gimmicky that it's like I'm pretty sure the devs don't want to make her too strong because they only want her to be an option when they forget to make the bosses immune to their own debuffs. So really, Yuffie's power really just scales on the power of the devs' memories.
Speaking of Black Cloud Strife, Black Nero on YouTube. Make sure to check him out. Give him a like and a sub, and ring his bell for notifications. Did you blue Yuffie yet, BC?
He did.
You did blue Yuffie. So how is Bluefy? How does Bluefy play? Probably the only person here who blued Yuffie.
Our fucking server. Like,
oh really? There's several people.
Yeah, 4 or 5 at least saying that.
all you people justifying your PS5 purchase, get that intern.
It's because the HP cap up for the party is pretty rare and pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
Still not worth bringing Yuffie to me, but
yeah. What's her blue armor? It's party
1-3.
Party. Okay, it's 1-3. Brave HP. Nice.
Yeah. So like maximum HP.
Hey, nice.
Party, which is rare.
Black Nero saying not worth it. But these are the things we do for our favorites, our Yuffies.
Yeah, I pulled Yuffie too, just because
Me too.
really like the trope. A very prominent trope in FF is young, energetic thief girl. You've got Riku, you've got Lion, you've got practically Iris from FF. They're all the same fucking character.
RVK did a fun little should you pull. I think it's his should you pull Yuffie, RVK.
I didn't see his Yuffie one. I didn't see his Yuffie.
Oh yeah, no, the Yuffie one. Yeah, it's using an Office reference. Go check out RVK's should you pull Yuffie is pretty funny.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I want to support Riku and Lion, so I pulled Yuffie. Same fucking character. And then we'll get Lion. I'll probably pull her and not like her either in a few weeks. In a week. All right.
Well, looking at the podcast polls, again, TonberryTroupe.com for the infographic. Quetzalma Materia Bot for the podcast polls. Thank you to J.A, our mod, for that. 4 people pitying Eunice BT on this. 12 people pitying the LD. 3 people using gems. A lot of people, 87 tickets across 10 servers. And 49 skipping Rude. And again, we didn't talk about Rude because he did get LD boards, but who the cares?
Yeah, we're not going to touch these characters.
He's got nothing. He got a whole bunch of nothing besides some cutscenes about his sunglasses. Cutscene about being a creeper.
I'm gonna add in this one thing before we move off Yuffie. Xcal saying the biggest issue most of the time is that the most crippling buffs that bosses throw out, they're usually immune to themselves, which means Yuffie is basically just like an Asuna Light only, right? Like what is it? A fucking one debuff?
Yeah,
dispel?
she cleanses all the buffs on herself and one for the party. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she steals 1 or 2, depending on if you're using your S1 or LD.
Correct.
And yeah, it's there. Shit, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
she is not the best dispeller or cleanser by far.
Right. Right.
She does have that in her kit if you are desperate for that. But yeah, I mean, her primary role is dispeller, and her secondary role is gimmick. So
honestly, I think Yuna's already got cleansing. You got Mod coming up, which is also just a better cleanser. If you need a cleanser, dispels, you've got Lion coming up, and I think there was one more. Beatrix is very, very soon. But yeah, no, that's what I meant, Xcal, when I said Yuffie's just as good as the lapse of memory the devs have, because once in a while Dullahan will slip through. I'm pretty sure they never made that mistake again, or if they did, it's just not worth it because you can triple BT plus 3 fights now.
So CSDX says together Yuffie and Kadash can almost be a dispeller, and that is true.
Why would you bring both of those characters?
But the problem is then you have Kadash and Yuffie,
so bad.
And you need significant damage and support for that team. It's possible. So right now, like, you could probably run Yuna, Kadaj, and Yuffie in Rude's Lost Chapter of Lufania, no problem. That'd probably not be and because I mean, again, the defense down, attack down stacking can work really well. Definitely an option. But yeah, that moving forward, that team's going to need a lot of help in the damage and support department. So again, if you can negate the boss because of the attack down, that's super great. But Kadaj definitely needs help with his damage support, and Yuffie not so much, but her damage is not high end. Hey, let's talk about the Rude's Lost Chapter Lufania. We fight 3 masked monks. Managing the Lufania orb is probably the most challenging part of this particular fight. The orb ticks up when the enemy takes brave damage from an effect like sap or poison. Yuffie does both, meaning you have to let them take turns if you want to avoid triggering the orb. That's not terrible, as they are pretty easy to have them not be super dangerous in terms of damage dealing with the right party, but they do delay themselves at certain thresholds, making orb management even more difficult and likely to trigger the orb if you're not paying attention. The masked monks retain their mask mechanic from the original fight. They start with white masks, move to yellow masks, then go to red masks. They move back one step after they break. So if they're red and you break them, they go to yellow. If you're yellow, you break them, they go to white, etc. Red is the most dangerous because they can unleash their special attack during that phase. That being said, the most annoying thing is they do apply a debuff called, it's with the move called Curse, with the debuff called Bane, which prevents all forms of Brave gain. This happens at 79% at each of their 79% and 49% thresholds. So make sure to bring lots of AoE damage, because if you hit them at different thresholds, it's going to be a mess. You save yourself the pain. They also, at 69% and 29%, delay themselves again and cast shields. So be prepared for another debuff, be prepared for that debuff at 79%, 49%, shields at 69% and 29%, and self-delay at all four, 79%, 69%, 49%, 29%. That's the ticket. That's how you get through that fight. Again, thank Excalibur for the threshold guide, and I'm sure there will be a boss guide at DissidiaInfo.com as well. Scott is saying if you don't break the shields, they will do a buff dispelling attack. They can also reapply Bane outside of those thresholds if you give them enough turns, I think in their yellow phase.
I thought if they go red mask, they automatically do it, right?
Is it red they automatically do it? Yeah, so when they move from yellow to red, they also put on Bane. Correct. There you go.
Right. Oh, is it? I thought it was when they take their turn on red, and then when they take their turn on yellow, they get a fat HP heal.
Do they get heals on yellow? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They
Excalibur saying yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I got my ass kicked by this fight. I know all the mechanics, but go ahead, Mark.
No. I was going to say, just in terms of MVPs, Yuffie is definitely MVP, as she can prevent them from doing much harm to you. She can cleanse that Bane from the party and throw it back on the enemies, which is funny. Yuna also brings cleanse. Obviously, if you bring turn stealers, deleters, you're going to be in trouble because you're going to trigger the orb. You'll probably trigger the orb anyway if you're not paying attention. So you need to use your burst phase and your friend phase appropriately and your summon phase appropriately because you can probably power through some of it with enough damage. I was not bringing heavy damage dealers. That being said, in my experience playing with this fight, AoE damage, doing the same damage across the board with your skills, is much, much safer than doing, because if you hit the threshold once and then you get debuffs and then the next turn you did it again, and it's just a lot more debuffs to deal with than only having to do it once. So if you hit all the thresholds at the same time, You only get debuffed once, and that's a lot nicer. So they don't have tons of HP, and so I mean, if you do bring some solid damage dealers, and I think the big damage dealers again, Sabin AOE damage. Hey, Illuminasa, thank you for the tier 1 sub. 16 months, thank you. Check out Illuminasa. Got a new setup streaming. Going to be back on Twitch, I believe. So, yeah. So, I mean, Sabin and Strago, other big AoE damage dealers, really can shine here if you have them in your disposal. If you're using characters like Tifa and Vaughn, you really do need to be careful because you can end up hurting yourself quite a bit. Yeah, Mino, what do you think? You didn't enjoy this fight?
Oh, no. I loved this fucking fight. There are so many mechanics that are so good, but easy to ignore with the right characters again. Honestly, this is gonna be an unpopular opinion, but clearly when these old fights resurface with all these cool mechanics, like these are more mechanics than any of the recent fights I've had in a while. And Rude's LC plus Shinryu back to back is really showing that we need a roster reset now. So I feel like Lufania Plus came in a very good time. In fact, I'm pretty sure JP players, correct me if I'm wrong, around this time in JP, without the knowledge Lufania Plus was coming, it was considered like a pretty dead time because there's just so many answers. Now that we have all these LDs out, Lufania has just stopped being a super challenge if you have the right, but like the mechanics of this fight are brilliant. I love the mass changes. I love the punishment to each thing. And here's the thing. This is the complaint I heard most about this fight. And it was that the orb wants you to give them turns, but you're punished for giving them turns because they change masks and they do bad things to you, right? And then that was called bad game design, unironically, once again. This is similar to the complaint that why was the last boss rush's wave 1 orb so different from the wave 2 orb? This is bad game design, which is just laughably like so many people were complaining, I don't understand why we're supposed to give them turns, but we're punished for giving them turns. That's the game. I don't understand. Like life is filled with hard decisions. You can't, there's not always a clearly better thing. It's risk management, right? You have to decide how many turns do you give them. You can't lean into give them all the turns, and you can't lean into no turning them. And then this is also another fight that really punished no turners. And there was a lot of people saying, the orb keeps ticking off on me because they keep delaying themselves whenever I push a threshold, and it's kind of like, yeah, slow down.
That's intentional. That's what they want you to do. That's how the fight's designed intentionally. I think that's good game design, actually. Yeah.
But like the math mechanics were great. I loved this fight when it first came out, and they added even more mechanics now because the yellow is a heal, which is great. That delays the fight. It's a tighter turn count if you're not running the super powerful metas. The debuff on the red mask as a new addition is really good. The debuff, they're getting really creative with these debuffs. I love it. And then just right, that push and pull of, do I give them a turn here or do I not? Right? Like, can you space it out the 13 turns and give them a turn once every fucking 13 actions? Not that bad. But this fight was very fun. But the thing is, with such a wide roster, if you're doing like Yuna plus Core plus whoever, a sap, and there's just so many saps now, right? Like you have a lot of options.
Your friend Sephiroth. I mean, right? I mean, it's
AOE damage was also very rare back then.
Right.
But now you have like Strago, you have
this was a tough fight, right? I mean, the original that month was a pretty rough month, if I recall. The Reno Rude month had a lot of that was one of our hell months, wasn't it? With
this was supposed to be the end of hell month because you could just
because that was Kieran. That was Kieran Lost Chapter and the Sephiroth fight, the Reno fight, yeah.
And and the original fight had range and magic resistance, Scott Ong is saying. So, right, like originally it was really hard to do this fight when it came out. Like a lot of people used Vivi, who was a GL time traveler.
Right.
That JP didn't have that option on. But obviously, like Rude's damage was very competitive back then. And you just healed all the damage. or like but yeah, it was rare then, but you have so many options now.
Yeah.
And like you've got so many options for sap. A lot of people ran Toto, Kefka, Leon, Yuffie. I there's just so many options. So it's not obviously if you did Unicore third, you probably didn't even see or know of any of these mechanics. But I really like the mechanics of this fight, and a roster reset is needed. Like if they did this kind of fight in Lufania Plus, it would be so fun, right? Like if you didn't have every single LD kit, because now I think our LDs are past the halfway point at this point. We're at 60.
Yeah, we're over 60. Well, I've got 83 unique LDs, so we're over
We're
half.
well over, yeah,
Yeah.
we're well over the halfway point at this point. And I know JP right now for Lufania Plus, they're also waiting for a roster reset because and I'm just gonna say it. A lot of people are saying this game would be better if everyone was balanced and usable. The sales figures show that difficulty sells,
Yeah.
and there needs to be a push to use new characters. Otherwise,
Yeah. No,
a
that's
lot of like a lot
I
of
I
JP
don't
players say,
I don't know I don't know what world all the characters should be usable and gotcha coincide. Like I guess like are all like I mean in fighting games, right? That like ongoing fighting games. There might be that might be a call for that, right? That and then maybe you have to buy I don't know how the games work. I don't know how fighting games work anymore, but but yeah, in your gotcha realm, um that's never how it works. Uh
yeah, I mean, I have a million examples like you too with like card games and stuff, but I
oh
know
yeah. Oh yeah.
Macno will always say, so we should get better ref. Macno says those are PvP games, this is a PvE game. So we should find PvE comparisons because
Well,
I'm
but
just
again,
channeling.
but it's a collector. My boys, just to go off in a different realm, right? My boys are started getting interested in baseball cards. Not something I ever collected growing up. I collected Desert Storm trading cards just to give you a sense of who I am, and Marvel, things like that. So I did collect cards, and of course I played Magic and several other CCGs, but. So my boys are interested in baseball cards. So I went to because you can't buy baseball cards at Target or Walmart because people were killing each other for them. So they don't sell them at like the stores around me. So I had to drive half an hour. We found a sports collectible card store, and so baseball cards. You think of okay, you get packs of baseball cards. You get the players, right? There's like half a dozen different and from one company. There's only one company that makes baseball cards. It's Topps. There ain't no other companies, I don't think, anymore. There's one company, but there are 6 variations of the current year baseball cards and 2 different series of each variation. So what? So as a collector, like the type of it's a never ending thing, right? Like to be a true baseball card collector, you're thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. To be a true Magic, I was spending back when I was playing Magic $300 at least every 3 months playing Magic. Probably, and that's as a teenager. People playing a lot more. So, yeah, I don't know. I just yeah, you're always gonna play. Want the new things. There's so much I like about this game, and the idea that
Super.
they keep bringing back characters and make other characters usable. That's just great, right? That's so
Yeah.
awesome that works. But right to have this idea that all the characters should be equally usable at all times. Is either the only way they could do that is basically by so all the characters are equally balanced at all times, but fights are super super restrictive. So half the characters wouldn't ever be a thing. So
Max is saying, are you saying this like that's a good thing? But before we move on to that, I just wanted to rein it in. We could definitely talk about this in the post show, guys. Uh, let's we're almost to the end. I think we should at least for now pull back to roots of that. Did you have any further thoughts, Mark?
No, no, it was a good fight, fun fight. Yeah, it took me just a couple of tries to realize what was going on. So yeah. No.
Oh, I just wanted to add that some of the people complaining about were punished if we let the bosses take a fight. This is a week I was able to catch a lot of streams. A lot of these people were also people that said no turning is boring. The game should encourage boss turns, and this
Yep.
fight did it. And the very same people hated it. So I don't know, man. Pick a deal with the mechanics, rough mechanics. But um, that's all I got for the fight. We're good on that one, right? Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to move to some podcast questions?
Sure. Guys, flood us with questions. We are running dry. I got one really good question left here, and then if you don't, I'm gonna have to start making up discussions every episode. Feel free to ask them live in chat too. I'll start sniping them. We have some time today, 15, 20
Did you
minutes.
wanna go through the podcast questions, or you'd already gone?
I did. We don't really have that much. I answered some really quick things like people saying like, "Oh, if what's the best?" Yeah, one question here is what's the best BT plus to pull if you can only have one in the first month and a half? I don't know if you want to tackle that online. That's a pretty straightforward answer. Uh,
Uh, yeah, it's Bart's. So I mean,
yeah, I think I
it's
said that
Bart's.
too. Yeah.
Yep, it's
And
Bart's.
so yeah, we can get rid of most of this, but White Graph said, and I look, this ties into our conversation. Do you prefer more new characters while others fall off, or do you prefer fewer characters who are viable? Hmm. So, I mean, I guess that's basically a question of do you like an ever expanding roster or a smaller roster that so you don't have to wait like 5 years between tuning passes?
Yeah, no, I think it has to be both, right? I think that's how Defos hit the sweet spot. You have, there needs to be a stream of, and it's not the new characters are all weird. First of all, movie like the next year of new characters are just wacky characters, but like we're digging in the bottom of the trash barrel for some of these characters. Let's be honest, uh, but they're not on a regular schedule, so we'll get like some new characters closer together than other characters, I guess, if that makes sense. But to have kind of this constant stream of new characters, whether it's, we used to do 2 a month, now it's maybe 1 a month. And there are going to be times when it's 1 every other month. That's fine. I'm okay with that pace. Maybe 1 a month, I think, is probably the sweet spot in terms of new characters, especially if we get GL first. That's going to be fine. That will make up for the difference there. And then, yeah, repeating the characters. Although towards the end of Lufania Plus, you're going to get upgrades to a whole bunch of characters really, really fast. And you're going to get BT Pluses really, really fast. And that may be, I don't know if that's a good thing, yes or no, because we have to see what the next era brings us. So I think it has to be a balance between the two, personally.
Yeah, that's what chat's saying too. But I mean, I guess it's a one or the other. So to make my answer more interesting, I think I'd go for shit. If I had to pick one, it'd be more new characters, I guess. Because I was just talking about how like we do need roster resets every
Well,
once in a while. I know like games like FFBE are evil because you always have to keep pulling new characters in Fire Emblem here, but like I think if I had to pick one, gun to my head, I would rather have to keep pulling than have a stale meta, I
yeah, no,
suppose.
I mean, I think the cool thing about new characters is it's probably easier than rehashing old kits to make a new kit. Or it's not easier; it's more difficult, obviously, but it's more interesting to have a new kit than a rehashed old kit, right? Because, like,
Yeah.
for example, this week, yes, Agrias and Yuffie got LDs. They got reworks.
Mhm.
They pretty much do the same thing that they did in the last iteration, right? Agrias is shutting down bosses. Yuffie has her gimmick, right? That did not change. Their core of who they are is still the same. They just got better at doing it. Maybe got a couple new gimmicks, a couple new mechanics, some extra support, some extra, buffs, everything else. Yeah, and so and Mega Arcade is talking. I think this is where they're going in terms of, there's a lot of new characters. It's hard to keep up, and there are some people that we've talked about this before, like they specialize in a few types of characters or a few characters, and they become really good at those characters. Whereas I would prefer just to be constantly using new characters. Yeah, so. But yeah, and Yin is saying, yeah, of course there are characters like, well, Yuna's, I think, the classic example. Every iteration, her kit changes completely. So,
Checking. Raylos is asking. Here we go. Any predictions on who will win in the polls for Green, Ish or Zidane?
Wyatt Graff said, "Do you
That's an
prefer more
easy
new
one.
characters
It's
while
gonna be
others
Ish
fall off,
because that's all the
or do
community
you
talks
prefer
about.
fewer?"
It is all hype based. Very few people are actually going to do the research, and Josepher is going to say that Zidane lowers the value of his banner when he comes out. So Ish is going to win by a landslide. What do you think, Mark?
Oh yeah, you really think so? Wow. Yeah, it's gonna be a mess, isn't it? I'm thinking. Yeah, sorry, I did voice to text to voice for that Whitecraft question. Thank you, Whitecraft, for that. So that was weird.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't have heard it, but yeah, the chat did over you, or the stream did over you. But yeah, I mean I'm thinking about in terms of tier lists moving forward, in terms of the limited resource we have in terms of BT pluses, and really how to prioritize and how to do that. So I mean I think definitively Bart's is probably the best in the first month. But I mean, my priority will probably be Zidane because he's a favorite of mine. I've even considered doing a sub campaign because I think Cloud of Darkness is still considered a good friend unit, and to have a green Cloud of Darkness, so a sub campaign for me to just to buy a pack and green her as a friend unit. I don't know. I don't know what was the question. Where were we going with that one?
Who would win in the polls?
Yeah,
Ish or Zidane, not Bart's.
Yeah, no. I mean, right. I mean, Yish, I think 100% right. Yeah.
Okay. And then Katsufumi saying, when do you think HA plus armors will ever be a necessity? That's a really hard one because I've never thought of armor as a necessity ever. Armor is something that I just increase when I need more CP. I don't think I've ever said like when someone was asking earlier, when do you think my characters will be ready for Lufania, right? I would say like a 3 LD team is a good base to have. I would never make a base off of armor because I feel like armor is so ultimately meaningless other than CP. I mean, of course, blue armor gives you power, but not like necessary like weapons and abilities.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about this in the next era in terms of ultimate weapons. They're not necessary, but they may be at some point. I think BT plus is probably necessary. It's just not. Any one BT plus may not be necessary in late Lufania plus. But to have some BT pluses is probably necessary. I don't know how you feel about that. I mean, we don't know till we get there. Are there people that have completed everything without BT pluses at all? I don't know that that's the case. I don't know. 100%. I'm guessing that for most of us, BTs will become a necessity and BT pluses will become a necessity over time, right?
Yeah.
Couple questions to finish up here. Final Asim says, "Hey guys, how are you? What's worse or more relevant, more important, etc. Spheres or artifacts?" I think you had a conversation on this on the ranting hour. At this point, spheres are pretty much meaningless, right? Spheres are not adding a lot. Artifacts are probably pretty close to being meaningless, and probably moving into C90 era become even more. So unless artifacts get reworked, so definitely, in terms of non-weapons, obviously weapons are priority. After your weapons, your armor, your blue armor boosts your character considerably. Then your boards, then your artifacts, then your spheres, unless it's some weird sphere mechanic. And there are a couple, there are a couple situations like the Paladin Cecil Record Sphere, refined sphere that interacts with the Brave Gain armor. That might help, but for the most part, your spheres are not. They're probably the least of your concern. Artifacts, yeah, obviously, if you can get, especially the aura artifacts are helpful, but even at that point, there's diminishing returns on those small percent. I don't know what do you think about that?
As usual with the A or B, I'd like to go one line. So I think artifacts are better.
Yeah.
They give flat stats, and we always talked about, we've done the math like year one, where flat stats always scale much, much better than percentages, and spheres are always percentage based. And not only is it flat stats, but the rare ones that give like party auras and stuff are way, way, way stronger than spheres. I feel like AFs are easy. Like, you should definitely have that. If anything, they make spheres better. So artifacts for sure, easily, even though, as you said, at the end of the day, it probably doesn't matter. But artifacts.
Shadowheart was with us, I think, in chat earlier. Shadowheart asked, "Do you think the convenience of things has caused people to be lazier in their work efforts?" Is that a life question?
I think I asked that. I think I asked if that was a life question.
Is that a society question? Because the proletariat is very lazy. No, I'm not really sure.
Right, hold on. He clarified. Let's see.
I didn't see it if he did.
I think he clarified. Shit.
I don't know.
Shadowheart, are you still here? I know it tied
we
to the game.
We live in this society.
I know it tied in the game in some way. What the hell was the question again? Because you just deleted it in front of me.
Yeah. No, I just deleted it. Is the convenience of pulling so many different LDs making us lazier in our attempts to beat content?
I think he applied it to like divine board farming and shit like that.
Okay. Yeah,
because we had like auto plus and we have
so,
auto plus and
that
stuff.
So I have a couple ideas running around in my head for videos. And so one of the things I was thinking about is, compared to other gacha games, how not very grindy DissidiaFFOO has become. Now, there was a time, now if you just start out, there's tons of content to go through. So in that sense, it's a little grindy. And there was a time when, artifact grinding was a really pain in the butt. Those early summon boards, really, really tough to get through. Right now, DissidiaFFOO is not a grind at all compared to other games where every single event, there's a standard gacha. So, I mean, Inkwelder is always talking about we need new modes. Let me tell you, there are lots of other gacha games that have lots of other modes that suck ass. So let's be careful before we're asking for just any modes. And I'm not saying asking that. I'm just saying, if we want new modes of content, let's make it good content. Because, I mean, take Disgaea, there is a constant stream of gacha modes where a new event is basically just grinding the same stage over and over and over again for points to clear a shop. Kind of like our co-op, but imagine having to do that for hours a day for weeks on end. And that's the majority of your gameplay. And some people love that, right? But, I mean, for, like, I think, I've done 1 3-time book on this co-op and cleared the whole shop. That's fine with me. That's okay. And if I need to go back and get some extra resources, great, I'll do that. But I don't need to do my 5 co-ops every day. I'm okay even not doing co-op every day. But yeah, and so yeah, Black Cloud saying Ultima weapon has a grind like that. So, um, so there are things in default like that. But for the most part, the grind has gotten easier. And so, does that make people more lazy? Uh, I don't, I don't
Probably
know.
for me, I
I
missed
don't
two
know.
logins last week.
Yeah,
But
yes, we
yeah,
are.
I didn't log in 2 whole days in a row. It was crazy to me. I was like, shit, I forgot. But you want to talk about lots of shit modes? Oh boy, Avengers got you, man. So
Oh
so
yeah.
Avengers, the dying game. Let me tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
they have
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of modes, and let me tell you about all the modes. So if you're unfamiliar with the train wreck that is Avengers somehow, it's like a Diablo thing where you fight through a level for loot, and then there's a boss at the end. Yeah, so that's the regular game.
Yeah.
And then every mode they've added since has pissed people off. So
Nice.
there's a tower where you do the same thing except so one level is a floor and then you have to do a certain amount of floors like 10, 15 floors without dying or you lose all your progress. So that's one mode they added. Another mode is the same thing but with time attack. So you have a timer running and when you kill enemies you gain a
Nice.
few seconds back. And so it's just the same thing but faster and people hate that. And then there's your dailies and weeklies where you have to do the same missions a certain amount of times, like kill Taskmaster 10 fucking times a week
Well,
to
let's
get your
let's just
fucking
talk about
reward.
that. Like, how many games? I picked up. I won't do it on my screen, but I picked up that World Flipper game, and like, how many games are your daily missions take just to do the daily missions? Take a long time. Where Defo is literally you just kill one cactus and all your daily missions are done.
Yeah,
let
yeah.
alone weekly and monthly missions. Yeah,
But
BS.
but but the other thing is this is going to be an eternal fucking fight that I have with Tonberry Troupe here, I think. But I remember there was some talk on TCC challenges or something. I think it was the one, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the one we went with pretty minimal bans. I think we banned like two or three characters out of Synergy, and one of those was like core, so whatever. And I remember there was some chatter in the TCC challenge channel where people were like, "You didn't ban X character, you didn't ban Y character. They also shut out the fight, right? Like I think they make it too easy." And it was either BC or Macnol that jumped in. I don't remember. Both of them were in the conversation. They're pretty much the same person. And they said, this is just a community challenge. Feel free to make it harder on yourself if you
Yeah.
want, right? Like if
Don't
you
don't bring
feel like
those people.
yeah, yeah, if you feel like X or Y character trivializes the fight,
Don't bring
you
those
can go
people.
ahead and not do it, right? Like it's very in
No
your power to do
no
this.
one's forcing you to use
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah, yeah.
characters.
And
You
and
don't have
and
to.
and like I fight with Dreamy and Ink so much on this because they're always in the camp of DFFO. They're like people keep talking about community challenges, but the game should be pushing it us and rewarding us for it. Like we shouldn't have to come up with our own fun. And we always fucking argue about this. And the same thing that goes for the challenge talk with this is if you want the fights to be harder, you can. I purposely do things so I experience the mechanics like Roots fight and super enjoy it. I purposely do things so my Lufania runs, when events drop, it's not a 1 hour clear. It's several hours throughout the week for me to do an event because I try a lot of different things. That is how, if you want the game to last longer, it can last longer. So I will always just say if you're thinking there's not enough to do in the game, you can make your own fun very, very, very easily. I don't
You can
understand.
read a book, make love to your partner, go on a walk, all kinds of different things to do. So, last question today. Diodick. Oh, that's how you say that. Diotic, like a Pokemon. If you have resources to pull but not max out a unit, boards, power stones, ignits, should you pull? What do you think, Mino?
Shit.
Are you there?
Yeah. Oh shit. Was I not coming through? Hello?
No, yeah, you're there. Hi.
Okay. Um. Shit. I don't know. I
We
personally would. I personally would.
Like we're not the poor, so we have to put ourselves in your shoes. So give us a second,
Yeah,
right?
but I personally would. I no. I'm a man of the people, Mark. I've been in
Oh
this
yeah. Yeah.
situation
Yeah.
as recently as today because I have 5 armor tokens left, and I was doing my calculations of when Reigns is coming out, and I'm saying there's a very real possibility that when Reigns comes out, I won't have enough armor tokens to give him CP90 armor or enough ingots to even do his EX because I have 0 books and 1 ingot right now, Mark. I will show you the
Yeah.
screenshot. I'm
No,
0
I
books
believe you. Yeah.
and 1 ingot. And I'm like, if a new character drops next month, I'm not going to be able to MLB him. But should I pull? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I would.
Yeah, I'll give
Eventually,
if there's a
there's gonna
character
be
like you
more
really want, yeah. Like pull them now if you have like let's just say, right, you have 1,000,000 gems but no power stones, like then yeah, right. Like well, if you have 1,000,000 gems and no power stones, that's a problem you can solve really easily. But yeah, maybe you don't have the armor yet, you don't have the books yet. But you really do like Zidon's your favorite character, but you don't have the books. Yeah, pull, right. I mean that's if you have the resources, fine. If you're running low on everything, that's some time to reassess. Who was it here? I have to look up here. So yeah, I think Raylos says, "What if you don't have a book, a lover, or a place to walk?" Well, then download another mobile game. World Flipper just came out. It seems interesting. It's a pinball based gotcha. So
that sounds horrible.
Yeah, it is an 8-bit JRPG pinball themed. Gotcha.
That's some RNG in your RNG. I don't trust virtual pinball at all. But
no, it's a little hilarious actually. So
yeah, so I mean, the people in chat are talking about it. Reckless Harlot's saying can't later build gear you don't have. That's true. That's where I lean. But Silocons, I would not do what he does. He's saying this is my life. I have 8 LD units, but no EX ingots or books for either. 8 characters is too much. That's too much of a backlog. That's way too much of a backlog. Maybe like 1 or 2 or 3, but if you have like 8 characters that need ingots to catch up, that's rough, man. Don't go that far.
Well, thank you all of you online, all of you on Twitch with us right now. Stick around for the post show. All of you watching, thank you. If you are watching on Twitch, please, right now, if you're listening, watching, give us a follow, give us a sub. We appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, like, sub, ring the bell. Listening on your favorite podcast apps, give us a review, make it good. This has been episode 166 of the Crystal Chronicles. Looking ahead, we have Dimensions End Entropy, Dimensions End Transcendence Tier 4 with Barrett's LD. On the 13th, we have Xdes campaign event on the 17th, Zonde's LC on the 21st with Zell. Yeah, Zell LD. And then Act 3, Chapter 4, Part 2 with Vivi on the 24th. So for Mino and myself, thank you all for joining. Good luck on all your Barrett pulls. Your blue Barrett will say sweet somethings into your, I don't know. Good luck. Don't blue, God for help, don't blue Barrett. Wait till the show next week. But until then, friends, we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.